Alright everyone, and so I've seen 28 years later, and this is bringing Danny Boyle back and continuing this series, especially with the storyline of the rage virus that has spread and where it goes to next. And I have to say, I was really impressed, especially for what they brought with the gore and the violence and treating it as like a zombie apocalyptic a thriller movie, and having this ritual event continue. And I think I have a lot to say here, and so this will be my full non-spoiler review for the movie, go over my thoughts and my impressions, and I think I have like lots of good things to say, but even though I have some things I want to get into towards the end, but that's what I'm going to talk about right here, right now. And so, if you're new, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so I'm starting any future including movie reviews and much more. But now, let's talk about this movie. And now, if you know the movie 28 Days Later that was brought to us by Danny Boyle, and it really changed the game for the zombie apocalyptic thriller genre that started Cillian Murphy, as it was filmed with handheld cell phone technology, which I thought was very impressive. And then it followed up with 28 Weeks Later, where the rage virus was spreading everywhere. And now, when it comes to this movie, 28 years later, we are still continuing that storyline. And basically, for how this movie was taking so long to be brought to us, the audience, and even for what Danny Boyle elevates with the world building by bringing it back and give you something that we never even seen before. And I think he pulled off brilliantly. And I liked everything that I saw, and just with the feeling of being back into this world, and just with the intense feeling of an apocalyptic thriller, a zombie storyline, especially for we learn more about the rage virus as we still see the infected and the way that they attack on people. Just with the whole storyline alone, with like a father and son that like lives on an island where it is connected to the mainland where the infected are, and then if they step off that island and then they can't get rescue, and they have to take down the infected, and even though that they have all the tools with them, and even though I just liked every bits and pieces, and I thought it was genuinely incredible for the way that this was pulled off. This was also filmed with handheld cell phone technology. It was filmed with an iPhone 15, which I thought was very impressive, like especially for a zombie movie like this to follow up from the previous two movies. It's got a great cast. I think some very good performances, especially coming from Aaron Taylor Johnson and Jodie Comer, who plays this mother that has an illness. But even specifically with the father and son, like I thought they were pretty good. But it just, even with the rage virus, for how it is explored more, for how it is spread, and how it sets up for our main characters. And it's really intense. It keeps you on the edge of your seat for how they're gonna make it out alive. And I think that's the stuff that I found really fascinating. And for the way that it really sets up its elements from beginning, middle, and end. Yeah, there is so much gore. It's so gruesome of the way that the kills were pulled off. And wow, it's too much for other people to handle. But I think with this movie, you'll definitely be blown away for what they pull off here, and it's like taken to a whole other level for how they pull off the infected, and especially in this decade alone, and especially for how do you follow up with like 20 weeks later, and now to bringing a sequel that like everybody wants. And I think this movie is basically it. We got more on the infected and how it is basically like the world is in like a quarantine, and yeah, it's basically a deep dive more into that type of like a rage virus storyline. And for what I was really impressed by, or for what this movie was able to achieve, it is of course this established world, and how does that follow up almost 20 years later for how of that gripped, intense feeling that the viewer is supposed to give, from which each layer of the story is trying to connect, and also they are trying to set up like the next couple movies. But just with this alone, it kind of got me specifically I think from the opening act, for the way that this father and son dynamic was explored, and for the way that these two were trying to stick together, trying to take down the infected, and for the way that it definitely sets up that really intense, jarring feeling, and it's unlike anything that I've ever seen pulled off on the big screen, especially for a horror apocalyptic movie like this. And I have to say, I do not agree for the route that they took with the ending. I mean, even though I felt like confused for what they were going with here, it's like, even though I asked myself, whose decision was it to greenlit the final moments of this movie? I mean, come on. I mean, I thought it was outright bad, and I kind of felt like, what type of direction that they're going at here with that type of... I feel like it was more of a comedic bit than a cliffhanger setup for the next couple movies, and I'm like, just like scratching my head, like it was like a weird feeling. Like, I mean, hey, for what they set up from the beginning of the movie, for what it sets up like foreshadows towards the end, like, oh man, it's just like, it kind of felt me like scratching my head. But even though I had a great time with this movie, I thought it was incredibly pulled off with great technology, and for the way they brought back Cillian Murphy, and that the way that he's like a zombie that I think he's been like infected, and with the way that you see him like in the marketing, for the way that they showcased him, and I think they did a good job of bringing his sense of presence, for the way that we saw him in 28 Days Later, which I loved Cillian in that role, bring his presence back into this movie, and for the way that he looked, oh man, like, it felt like so good, such an oddly gross out feeling, and even with the additional supporting cast, like you have Ralph Fiennes, and as with the others, they really pull off great performances, with Spike as an individual, like taking down the infected, and it was sort of like a good but also an intensive feeling to see this guy like develop as a character, and with the relationship that he has with his father and mother, it is really interesting to me. But just with an entire storyline alone, that's what got me invested into it. I thought like some parts were slow, but parts were like definitely fast-paced, and I think if you enjoyed it 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, you'll definitely go in really enjoying this movie. And bravo to Danny Boyle for what he was able to bring with his vision for what was he able to pull off, what he was able to follow up with the virus storyline, for the way that it wants to open up and evolve more. Even at times, I felt grossed out while like specific violent scenes were happening, and just like so much gruesome stuff. Like I'm like, oh my god, that really just happened. And to sum it up, I liked it. I liked it for what it was, and for the characters, and for what their role was in this, to how to survive. But again, I do not agree for the direction that they took to end the movie. But I thought it was outright ridiculous and sort of dumb, if you know what I mean. If I'll ever question for what happens, but I definitely think they did a good job at pulling off this apocalyptic world of bringing it back after so long. And I think like people and the fans will really like going in this movie. It is really well pulled off. It is a great movie, but I think the ending sort of messed that up in many ways. But hey, it is a good movie from beginning, middle, and I guess same sort of end. There's a lot of moments to be enjoyed, and some like big, crazy, bonkers stuff. There's like big WTF moments that go down. But hey, it is an apocalyptic thriller at the end of the day, and I have my time with it, and I hope you have a fun time with it as well. Yeah, this movie really was good, and I think I was anticipating this movie for a while, but I think it delivered. It's just the ending was not good. It was not that great. But I think there's like a trilogy set up down the line that they're bringing back Cillian Murphy. But hey, well, we'll have to wait and see on that. But to sum it all up for my final thoughts, I really enjoyed it 28 years later. I thought it was a well-established movie with the storytelling, that apocalyptic, intense feeling with the infected. And Danny Boyle, I mean, bravo to him. He did a really good job, and I liked the cast, the supporting characters. This movie will be enjoyed by others, and I think, yeah, some parts are slow, but it really builds up for what it is really setting up for the next trilogy down the line as well. But that's going to do it for this video. Just let me know in the comments down below, and if you got around to seeing 28 years later, let me know in the comments down below, and also give me a rating between 1 out of 10. I'm going to share your opinion. Don't forget to like the video, and subscribe and turn notifications for future videos. Also follow all my social medias, all linked down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.